This is just a little warning to my Irish friends. This video is filled with a lot of typical All Black fan arrogance, and it's at Irish expense. But it does end up biting me in the ass at the end of the video, so make sure you watch through to there. Now go on, pump the crap out of that like button and kick it right to touch. And in light of the upcoming test series, let's get up to speed with the recentish history of the All Blacks versus Ireland. This will not be some sort of complete history of the games between Ireland and ABs. This will just be what my leaky brain can really remember over my lifetime. First, you can probably tell from my accent I'm a Kiwi. Actually, you might not be able to tell that. Well, I, like most Kiwis, are often met with the most offensive question you can possibly ask in New Zealand whilst abroad, which is, so, like, I love your accent. What part of Australia are you from? To which the only response as a Kiwi is dropping to a knee and delivering a solid genitalia directed punch with full rage-fueled enthusiasm. Sorry, I digress. I'm a Kiwi, but with a last name like O'Sullivan, it's about as obvious as a Guinness in a sea of piss-weak lagers that I'm of Irish descent. I support them when they play most teams, except when they play the boys in black. Now, I have to be honest, for most of my life, I have generally written off the Irish team as a bit of a tier 2 nation. A team that battled but was never going to be good enough to beat the mighty All Blacks. That was, of course, until very recently, but I should have seen it coming. My first memory of the Irish national team was when they came to New Zealand way back in 1992. That year, the Irish team was actually taking on the Auckland provincial team, and it was billed as a bit of a big deal, and I, as a sportingly engaged 9-year-old, was keen to watch it. Thought it might be a big contest. You know, I was told my entire life that we were Irish, and I was like, let's see if we can play. It turns out we couldn't play. It was quite disheartening to watch. We were pounded by 62 points to 7. Now, look, that Auckland team was pretty stacked. They had names like Kerwin and Ronnie Clark, and one of my old favourites, and Strawn. Even had Frank Bunce, I think. Now, they actually pushed the All Blacks in the first test in Christchurch and then got pumped in the second. I don't remember those games, but in my little 9-year-old brain, it was the Auckland game that stuck with me. It was enough for me to write off the Irish team as a bit of a mud squad. So one of those teams that we could do some Harlem Globetrotter shit to whenever they came to town. It wouldn't be whether we'd lose to the Irish, it would be just that super arrogant question that All Black fans ask themselves. I wonder how much we're going to win by today. Now, my next memory of the Irish came at the 95 World Cup. Rightly or wrongly, I saw the Irish as about as much threat as a newborn baby in an MMA fight. It wouldn't be a contest, but hey, it was at the start of the World Cup, which was probably the most exciting sporting event I had ever anticipated at that point in my life. And then something very odd happened. The Irish scored first. Wait, what? They can score? Now, the rest of the game was pretty much smooth sailing for a cocky ABs fan like myself, and it was the first game when the world actually met the original Tonga Thor, and I'm talking about Jonah Mother Flippin' Lamu. From there, the Irish came to town to see us in 2002 at Carisbrook. Were they seen as a threat? Well, have I ever tucked my Johnson between my legs, walked naked down Queen Street, and pronounced myself as the Grand Duke of women's sanitary products? The answer to both of those questions is thankfully no, but still are both technically possible. The Irish played well that day, but they still lost 15-6, and the All Black fans deemed the home team's performance worse than the last season of Game of Thrones, and booed them off the pitch. How dare they not pump the Irish by 50 points? Such are the expectations of All Black fans. Wins aren't good enough if the performance isn't up to the mythical expectation of an All Blacks fan. What the All Blacks should do, how they should play, we let them know about it. Did the Irish get any credit from the Kiwi rugby public? Nope. It was deemed that the team gifted to the nation of New Zealand by God himself, who just happens to be a pretty handy number 10, really pulls the strings everywhere. The team just had a bit of an off day. That's what the message was. There were several games between the two sides before the Irish put the shits up the All Black fans and for the first time showed that they could legitimately beat the ABs on their day. In June 2012, the Irish were playing the ABs in Christchurch. Funnily enough, I was actually in the worst place you could possibly be to watch the All Black lose to Ireland, which of course is the beautiful Emerald Isle, Ireland itself. Visiting the homeland I was. It was early in the morning and I was travelling in a bus from Galway to Dublin. I was hungover as Mel Gibson after losing an argument about the existence of the Holocaust and pretty much passed out in the backseat of the bus with a bunch of other foreign travellers, most of which who couldn't give two shits about the game they played in heaven. Side note, apparently in Purgatory, they continually just reset scrums. Anyway, the driver on the bus, Colin, the only Irishman around, whom I'd made mates with, told me that he'd give me regular updates and broadcast them over the loudspeaker. For the first 75 minutes of that game, I didn't hear a word he said. I was completely passed out. I awoke to Colin telling others to wake me up because the Irish were doing the impossible. He then broadcast through to me to a rest of a disinterested bus. He said, "Tony, you f***, your boys are blowing it. The Irish are gonna do it." I woke up, I came to my senses and said, "Not a chance. We got this." And I meant it. I had total faith in the All Blacks would win. I hadn't watched any of the game, but I just knew they would win. I then dazed in and out of consciousness until I heard Colin rather disappointingly announce, "Your jammy bastard Carter got a drop goal. All Blacks win." "You fucking know it. Never in doubt." "Alright, settle down, you gobshite." The following week, the ABs pumped the Potato Farmers by another 60 points, as they do when they feel threatened, and I and the rest of the New Zealand public wrote off that close call as some sort of aberration. But it wasn't. It was a sign of things to come. The worm officially turned, in my opinion, in 2013. For the first time in my lifetime, the All Blacks had gone an entire calendar year undefeated. The Springboks, the Wallabies, anyone else we played, no one got a pesky victory over us. Our last game was against a very beatable Ireland team. The Irish played as a team possessed, and the All Blacks played like a team expecting to win. As I'm sure you're aware, the Irish team was off to a flyer and up by 19 points after 20 minutes. The only reason the All Blacks weren't able to win was the moment got to Johnny Sexton and he missed a sitter. A kick so easy that your grandma would have also missed it. She's not a goal kicker, silly. But Johnny Sexton should have got it. To the credit of the ABs, on that particular day, thanks to incredible execution and the poise of an adult nappy, they were able to pull off a remarkable come-from-behind victory and break the hearts of Irish fans who had been waiting so long for that anticipated victory. This wasn't a game we won because we were the better team. This was a game the Irish lost because the moment got to them. Sadly for maybe the greatest Irish player of all time, Brian O'Driscoll, this would be the last opportunity he'd have to get a victory over New Zealand. I remember Ronan O'Gara saying confidently in the post-match,
"The next time we play them, we'll beat them." And I think that's progress.
And I remember thinking, hold on, Seamus McIrish Pants. This is just another game in a long line of games that you've lost, and you will continue to lose. But there was something about his confidence that was undeniable. It was unnerving. And finally for me, at least the Irish had lost the stigma as a shitty team. It wasn't until then I still kind of thought of them as a bit of a crap team that got up occasionally. The next game was in Chicago in the US of A. Not your typical place for rugby history, more a place where you get diabetes, heart disease, and maybe could get a gun in a car park. But on that fateful day in November 2016, Rona O'Gara's prophecy of them winning the next game was proven to be absolutely flippin' right. The Irish team was full of talent and class, and at least on that day they proved that they were the better rugby team, and handily beat the All Blacks by 40 points to 29. Now, New Zealanders are generally as forgiving to All Black losses as Star Wars fans are to the inclusion of Jar Jar Binks in the prequel. But for some reason, my personal reaction wasn't one of heartbreak or anger, it was more complicated. It was an emotion of heartwarming irritation. To see the great people of Ireland finally celebrate a win over the All Blacks. That kind of reaction was echoed in most corners of All Black fandom. But in saying that, we certainly weren't going to tolerate more losses to the Irish. Now in the following game, a couple of weeks later, where traditionally the ABs would bounce back with a bottom-smacking pounding over the Irish, they only managed to scratch a 21-9 victory. The whole dynamic of the Irish and ABs had kind of flipped on its head. And to set this in concrete, those pesky Irish buggers beat my beautiful boys in black again in 2018. This, of course, being the first time the Irish would win on home soil. Now as someone of Irish descent, but is still a ride or die hardcore All Blacks fan, it's complicated watching a team that you're very fond of beat a team that you love. It's like watching your favourite child beat your least favourite child in a dick pulling contest.
What? What the fuck?
It's very confusing and you don't know how to feel about it, but it's certainly upsetting on a number of levels. Why are they playing a dick pulling contest, Tony? The next time the Irish met the ABs, the stakes were incredibly high. It was the quarter-final at the Rugby World Cup in Japan, and I reckon the Irish fancied themselves a chance. Unfortunately for them, they dropped their bundle, lost their keys, and got locked outside. The All Blacks dropped their pants and gave them a good old spanking for being naughty boys and bet them in a convincing victory 46-14. A game that was far more like watching a game that I'd watched as I was growing up between the two sides. Now, that was no course correction though, because a year later under Coach Fozzie, the ABs, well, wouldn't you know it, they lost in Dublin again. And for me, I've run out of fondness for my ancestral homeland and I'm sick of watching them win. For a team that I thought would never beat the All Blacks, a team that lost 22 games straight against the Men in Black, they've now won 3 of 5. And they're incredibly unlucky not to have made it 4 of 6, and have proved themselves to be one of the very best teams in the world. Ireland is a team that is getting pretty good at achieving first against the ABs. Those pesky blighters got their first win, and then they got their first win at home, and with the truly intriguing Test series coming up against Aotearoa New Zealand, will they get their first win in New Zealand? Well, if you go by the form book, they've got a cracking good chance. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe. Let me know how you think the Irish and the ABs are going to go. Enjoy the rugby. Mwah!